spirituality is higher than religion, and spirituality is a less walked path, or is a path that very few people in history of mankind ever walked. So what I love to tell you, my friend from Kiambu, is that to be spiritual, you must live and you must imitate and you must be a copy of those great people that ever lived. Those are people like Christ. Those are people like Buddha. Those are people like Zeno of Citium. Those are people like Muhammad. You imitate him completely. All his ways, you live them. You don't just verbalize them in your mouth, but you live them and act as those great people acted. And after you've achieved the actions of those great people, then you are spiritual. And from you, I'm getting a question here from Kiambu, and this guy is asking what's the biggest difference between spirituality and religion. So the briefest answer I'll tell you is that spirituality is the mother of religion, or in other words, religion is a shadow of spirituality. So most religions emerged or originated from greatest spiritual teachers that ever lived. For good examples, I'll tell you Christianity originated from Christ. Christianity is the religion, and Christ was a very, very spiritual man, but was not a religious man. He in fact went against the religions and the norms that the high priest and the people who are highest in the temple considered as morals and considered as righteous. So religion is a shadow of spirituality. And in another example, we have a Legio Maria religion, and it originated from the guy by the name of Ondeto. Ondeto was not a Legio Maria per se, but Legio Maria originated from his teaching, his doctrines, his levity. So religion is a shadow of spirituality, but a cheap version of spirituality, whereby religious fellas don't necessarily imitate or 100% imitate the spiritual masters who the religion originated from. A good example is you might have a Christian who does not necessarily practice the levity or does not live as Christ lived. So religion is a cheap imitation of spirituality, and most religious guys played a very big role in persecuting and killing and destroying those spiritual guys who stood for true righteousness and true service of the people around them. So true spiritual men live for others. They dedicate their whole life in teaching, in guiding, in showing merit, and in showing service, and in showing mercy, in teaching about caring for others. And most of them, even to their death or on their deathbeds, they maintain and they stick to their doctrines and to their love and to their what can I call it? They stick to their philosophies. A good example is when Jesus of Nazareth was being crucified, and until his death, he was still teaching these people about love and about not hating when you are hated, and not responding persecution by hate. In the instance where he said, "Forgive them; they don't know what they are doing." Imagine. So this guy they have already killed him properly. They have nailed him on the cross. Nails on your hand, on your hand. Nails zinapigiliwa misumari kwa mkono yako. Then he ended up saying, "Forgive them, Lord; they don't know what they are doing." That's a spiritual man. Another spiritual man was Stephen. The guy he's being stoned, kupigwa mawe kwa kichwa, kupigwa mawe mpaka karibu na dedi, na bado unasema forgive them. So Stephen died akiambia God, don't usiwahesabie makosa ya kuniua So those are spiritual men. Other spiritual men who lived, people like Buddha, and Buddha was poisoned, but until his death, Buddha was teaching love and was teaching compassion. So spiritual men have always faced persecution in this world, and the people who played a very big roles in persecuting them were high priests, were leaders of religious movements. So the spiritual men are realized after they are dead, or they are always considered great after they are dead. That also happened by the guy named Melchior Ondeto. Ondeto was poisoned by his closest member or his closest follower, and after the death of Ondeto, then Legio Maria suddenly became one of the most followed religious one of the most religious sect in Africa. So spiritual men or spirituality is the highest attainment of mankind, or is when man achieves the highest man can achieve. And from his example, a lot of people find inspiration, and down the line, or as the years goes by, people create a religion around him or around the spiritual guy. And as times keep on going by, the doctrine or the levity or his teachings become watered down, and become people create cheap versions of his teachings, just as it happened with Christ. From his philosophies, from his levity, from his doctrines, from his commandments, people created a form of Christianity that does not 100% resemble the guy who they got Christianity from. So the Christianity we have does not resemble Christ, because Christ was spiritual, but religion or Christianity is a version of man trying to create or to recreate a way of Christ from his own thoughts, or from his own opinions of what it would mean to be Christ. So to be a truly spiritual man is to be Christ, is to be Buddha, is to be that guy who a lot of people will imitate. So another spiritual man is people like Muhammad. So people like Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism. So Zeno was another great man from ancient, was it Rome or Greece? I think it was from Greece. So that great Greek philosopher, from his teachings, the Stoic and the Stoicism kind of religion originated. So that's the biggest difference. Spirituality is higher than religion, and spirituality is a less walked path, or is a path that very few people in history of mankind ever walked. So what I love to tell you, my friend from Kiambu, is that to be spiritual, you must live and you must imitate and you must be a copy of those great people that ever lived. Those are people like Christ. Those are people like Buddha. Those are people like Zeno of Citium. Those are people like Muhammad. You imitate him completely. All his ways, you live them. You don't just verbalize them in your mouth, but you live them and act as those great people acted. And after you've achieved the actions of those great people, then you are spiritual. And from you and from your levity, a lot of people, a lot of generations will find inspirations, and will find an example of living or of helping others. So the problem is, when you're spiritual, then you'll have a lot of enemies, just like we have said. People like Muhammad, it's said by some people or by a lot of people that he was poisoned. People like Jesus of Nazareth, It's very clear he was crucified on the cross because of standing for love and standing against the high priests and the people who led the religions of those times. If you live like a person like Ondeto completely, then just as Ondeto was poisoned, then you might end up being poisoned. If you live like Buddha completely, then you just like Buddha was poisoned by meat, then you might end up being poisoned. But even if you get poisoned or you are poisoned, as a spiritual man, you won't be shaken, or your love for humanity won't be shaken, just as Buddha showed love until his death, just as Melkia Ondeto showed love until his death, even knowing he has been poisoned, you'll also show love until your death. So until next time, hope you've understood the meaning of spirituality and the difference between spirituality and religion. Religion is not spirituality. Spirituality is where religion finds its ways, but becomes watered down to become useless to people around you. So when you're spiritual, the people around you will benefit the greatest, because no one will be hungry when you have something. No one will suffer when you have some solution. So spirituality is the acting that cures the problems of this earth and the people around you. So until next time, meditation is the channel. Please share and subscribe, and I'm out.